evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight in the heat and the rain. This is a special meeting of the Board of Education, and we are at the Maloney Magnet School. Today is July 30th. We're going to begin with a silent prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. After this meeting, we will have the workshop meeting also. So we're going to start with the silent prayer first, please. Commissioner Brown.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here. Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Vice President Harvey?
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez? Commissioner McEntee?
Present.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Here.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Here.
Commissioner Jason Vanstone? Commissioner Tom Vanstone?
Present.
President Stango?
Here. For the record, Commissioner Hernandez and Commissioner Jason Vanstone send their regrets because they are unable to join us this evening. Next item on the agenda is the public address to the board regarding this special meeting item only. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to suspend the regular order of business to hear from the public.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before we begin, all speakers are encouraged to submit prepared and written statements to the commissioners. Comments should be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. The chairman will disallow a speaker from continuing to speak if slanderous or defamatory remarks are made. There will be no responses this evening to any questions or concerns raised, but they will be referred to administration for review and response. The first speaker on the sign-up sheet is Lisa Lessard of Pearl Lake Road.
Lisa Lessard, Pearl Lake Road. The reason why I came tonight was one to wish congratulations to everybody that basically is here, being transferred or being promoted or going up a step. I'm also here about 1.6 Chief Academic Officer's appointment. Basically, we did have Anne-Marie Cullinan, Chief Academic Officer, who, as even the president of the board said, her shoes are going to be hard to fill, even though they were so tiny. And I'm here to say just about the same exact thing. Anne-Marie Cullinan was our Chief Academic Officer for a long while. She also was our Superintendent of Special Ed before that. She knew what she was doing. We didn't always agree. We most of the time didn't agree. And basically, but the good, bad, and the indifferent, we got what we needed to get for each and all children within the district. This Chief Academic Officer appointment, I do know that a couple of weeks ago we were talking about the African American community in accordance to wanting to go out there and recruit. So I'm hoping and praying, but I'm guessing not, that we do not have an African American appointment this evening. So I'm just hoping the appointment that we do have is the best of the best, the most qualified for the position, who will do for each and all children within district and out of district, because as we know, Miss Anne-Marie Cullinan wore many extreme hats, and she helped Miss Kathleen Ouellette, the superintendent, more than anybody would even want to know. She actually was kind of doing her job behind the scenes. So I just want to make sure that this Chief Academic Officer has all the credentials the Chief Academic Officer needs, and I would have liked to have seen an appointment, at least one appointment from the African American community, but at this point, you know, I don't know if you had any qualified people, but we, the public, deserve to know if there was somebody from the African American community, Latino community, that came here, put their application in, and basically with that application, if they had the qualifications, why were they not picked? I wish congratulations to whoever this Chief Academic Officer is, but once again, I'm assuming, and we don't like to assume, that it's nobody from the African American community. Me being part of the NAACP, I'm taking my hat off tonight with that, but at the same token, I want to know why. Why wasn't an African American or a Latino or anybody put within this position. And whoever it is, it won't be a surprise to me because I'm kind of guessing who it is. But at the same token, my hat's off to everybody sitting behind me. Good luck. You deserve it. But at the same token, if you're really into recruitment for the African American community, I don't know why we don't have an appointment like that tonight and this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Lassard was the only one who signed up. Is there anyone else here who would like to address the board at this point? Seeing none then,
Motion to return to the regular order of business.
Second.
motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're back in the regular order of business, and we're to item number 1 on the agenda, Committee on School Personnel. Vice President Harvey, number 1.1.
Thank you. Item 1.1, ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on School Personnel, the Superintendent of School recommends approval of the lateral transfer request of Michael Harris from high school vice principal at Crosby High School to high school vice principal of the Wtby Career Academy, effective immediately. Respectfully submitted and so moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Superintendent Roulette.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great pleasure to recommend to the Board of Education the approval of Mr. Michael Harris to the new position of Vice Principal at Wtby Career. Michael did a phenomenal job at Crosby High School, but has chosen to work with the Career Academy. He has great credentials with regards to community outreach, working with a partnership within the community. He also has done a tremendous work with regards to the Carl Perkins Grant, and will be assisting all the high schools within the district and working closely at the Career Academy. A couple other things about Michael. He has his, currently he has his 6-year degree at the University of Bridgeport, has his 092, and Michael's educational philosophy affirms his belief that schools are built for children, but it is the responsibility of all adults to provide a safe and healthy learning environment for all students. Administrators play a monumental role ensuring that every child can achieve growth and success throughout the educational career. So I think he's going to be a loss to Crosby High School, but tremendous gain for the Career Academy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, then all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 1.2 on the agenda, Vice President Harvey.
Item 1.2, ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on School Personnel, the Superintendent of School recommends approval of the lateral transfer of Talisha Foy from Supervising Vice Principal, Rotella Magnet School, to Supervising Vice Principal of Wilson School, effective immediately. Respectfully submitted and so moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Superintendent Willett.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, we have a very talented supervising vice principal at the Rotella School. Talisha has made the choice for moving to the new position at Wilson Elementary School. She's done phenomenal work at Rotella. Thinks her work would certainly be greater impact at Wilson, and just want to give you a little bit of credentials about her. She has had completed her student teaching and internship in Wtby and became a contracted teacher in September 2006. She was assigned to Walsh Elementary School, where she served as co-chair as a member of the Walsh School Governance Council during her tenure there. Talisha remained at Walsh through June of 2013, and then transferred to the elementary position at Gilmartin in August, where she was a phenomenal teacher. She served in the capacity as the supervising Rotella vice principal, and her credentials also, she has a 6-year certificate in advanced studies at Sacred Heart University. She has demonstrated tremendous strong leadership skills both as a teacher and administrator, and she's well respected by students, colleagues, parents in the community. Her dedication to this profession is noticed by all. So certainly a loss for Rotella, but certainly a real win and a gain for Wilson Elementary. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any further discussion? Very well. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Oh,
But I don't know. She's good? You good? You all set? She's all
wait,
set.
she's all set? Okay. I didn't realize you were here. You must have snuck in. Okay, moving on then to item number 1.3, Vice President Harvey.
Thank you. Item 1.3, ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on School Personnel, the Superintendent of School recommends approval of the appointment of Joanna D. Crudell as High School Vice Principal, Crosby High School, effective immediately. Respectfully submitted and so moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Superintendent Willett.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great pleasure to recommend to the Board of Education the approval of Joanna Crudell for the position of Crosby Vice Principal. Joanna was born and raised in Waterbury, is currently a Crosby business teacher and department chair. She has been with the Waterbury School District since 1983. She became a contracted teacher in 1984, starting her career at Crosby High School, transferred to Kennedy in 1986, and then back to Crosby in 1987. Joanna, I guess it was destiny for you, where she then remained. Clearly, you can see that Crosby is her home, and the staff and members and students are her second family. Joanna has also acted as a acting vice principal in 2008, and again in March 2009, and through June 2010, along with having her O92, she's certified in both business and secondary math. Over 50 applicants had applied for the Crosby Vice Principal position. Joanna ranked first in all three phases of the interview process. She's an outstanding candidate and demonstrates the quality of excellence and dedication we are pursuing for our administrative vacancy, and especially in a turnaround school. So congratulations.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Very well then. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Awad?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Harvey?
Yes.
Commissioner McAtee?
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Vanstone?
Yes.
President Stango?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. President, why the difference between that vote and this vote? Yeah.
Agreed.
The lateral transfers, they were already in the position of a vice principal. This is a promotion.
Okay.
So,
So we can clap now.
Good evening. Thank you. It is with great pride that I accept the position of the Vice Principal at Crosby. I look forward to working with the Board of Education, Mrs. Jade Gopi and the administrative team, Crosby faculty, staff, students, parents, and our community. I also like to thank my family.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, moving on. Item 1.4 on the agenda, Vice President Harvey.
Item 1.4, ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on School Personnel, the Superintendent of School recommends approval of the appointment of Kathleen F. Newmark as High School Vice Principal, Crosby High School, effective immediately.
Second.
Respectfully submitted and so moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion, Dr. Willett.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very pleased to recommend to the Board of Education the approval of Kathleen Newmark for the second position at Crosby High School. We did have an extensive pool of candidates, extensive vice principal search for Crosby, and with the lateral transfer expectation of Mr. Harris, it was easy for Principal Gopi to support the second vice principal position for this evening, and that would be Kathleen Newmark. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Ms. Newmark has been a contracted school social worker with the district since August 2007, and prior to that was Family Resource Center Director at Wilson Elementary School. Most recently, Kathleen was selected to fill in as interim supervisor of special ed, covering both Crosby High School and Wallace Middle School. She is enthusiastic and motivated and believes all children can learn and thrive in an environment that is stimulating, comforting, and appropriate to their unique talents and abilities. Some of the credentials that Kathleen has is a 6-year certificate in educational leadership for Southern Connecticut State University, a master's degree in social work from the University of Connecticut. She has the 092 endorsement, and again, there were over 50 applications for this high school vice principal position, and Kathleen scored highly during all 3 phases of the interview process. In Kathleen's letter of reference, her colleagues indicate she is an educational leader, committed to student success, and always in pursuit of excellence for all children. She prides herself on building relationships and strong community alliances, which allows for the advancements of her students. I am pleased to present an outstanding educator who embodies the skills we are seeking here at a turnaround school, also at Crosby High School. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Willett. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Webb?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Harvey?
Yes?
Commissioner McAfee?
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Vanstone?
Yes.
President Stango?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Good evening. I would just like to thank the superintendent, all of the commissioners, the president and the vice president of the board for giving me this opportunity to become a member of the Crosby team and to be part of the change that I know is going to happen at Crosby in the years to come. I'd also like to thank Principal Gopi for this opportunity, as well as my family. I'm dedicated to the students. I feel very strongly that my social work background will come in handy as the vice principal at Crosby High School. Thank you.
Moving on to item 1.5, Vice President Harvey.
Thank you. Item 1.5, ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on School Personnel, the Superintendent of School recommends approval of the appointment of Jennifer L. McClune-Egan as middle school house principal of the North End Middle School, effective immediately. Respectfully submitted, and so moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion, Dr. Willett.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very pleased to recommend to the Board of Education and the public the approval of Jennifer McAloon-Egan for the position of North End Middle School House Principal. Jennifer has been with the Wtby School District since 2001 and began her career as a grade 7 science teacher at North End Middle School. In 2009, Jennifer transferred to Wham's grade 8 science and recently was appointed Science Department Chair in October of 2014. 8 teachers reported to her while in this position. Jennifer has multiple teaching endorsements to include general science in the middle and high school levels, remedial reading, and adult education. Jennifer's administrative experience includes Wham's acting vice principal, interim adult ed night principal, and summer school administrator. She also acts as the program administrator in the Wham's after-school program, and as you can see, she's highly motivated and possesses a wide range of teaching and leadership experience. Her credentials also include a 6-year certificate in educational leadership from the University of Richmond, a master's degree in remedial reading and language arts, also from the University of Bridgeport. She holds a 92 administrative license, and there were over 90 applications for this position who expressed an interest, and Jennifer scored highly during all 3 phases of the interview process. Jennifer's educational philosophy embraces a cohesive environment where there is a shared mission and goals between the teachers, students, and parents. She is highly respected by teachers, colleagues, administrators, and will prove to be a valuable asset as house principal at North End Middle School. And I'm pleased to present an outstanding educator who embodies the skills we are seeking here in Waterbury as we move forward pursuing educational excellence for all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anything further? Seeing none. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Abel?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Harvey?
Yes.
Commissioner McEnany?
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Yes.
Commissioner Constantine?
Yes.
President Stengel?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to thank everyone for this opportunity to be an educational and instructional leader back at the school where I started as a Wtby teacher. As I now move on as a vice principal of North End Middle School, it is so important to know that tonight I have earned your trust and confidence. I thank you again and pledge to you my full devotion and energy to make sure our students are the best that they can possibly be. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 1.6. Vice President Harvey.
Item 1.6, ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on School Personnel, the Superintendent of School recommends approval of the appointment of Darren Schwartz as Chief Academic Officer effective immediately. Respectfully submitted and so moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Dr. Willett?
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great pleasure to recommend to the Board of Education the approval of Mr. Darren Schwartz as Chief Academic Officer for Waterbury Public Schools. Darren has a Bachelor's of Science in Elementary Education and Master's, Bachelor of Science Elementary Education from the University of Hartford, a Master's in Educational Leadership from the Teachers College of Columbia University, and also his administrative degree at the University of Connecticut. He holds a 092 endorsement for intermediate and administration and supervision. Prior to joining the Waterbury Public Schools Central Office team in 2012, Darren has both teaching and administrative experience. Teaching experience is a math facilitator, pre-K 8 and 6th grade teacher, Hartford Public Schools, 4th grade teacher, East Granby Public Schools. He was the principal at Expeditionary Learning Academy at Moylan School in Hartford Public Schools, and because of his talents, he was recruited for an intervention resource specialist at Central Office at the Hartford Public Schools. In those administrative roles, Darren served as an instructional leader for over 100 staff members and over 750 students in a redesigned neighborhood school under the expeditionary learning and Montessori themes. He also practiced distributed leadership by employing multiple teams to use data-driven decisions for school leadership, special education, school climate, operations and instruction. He provided professional development and led the staff in writing literacy and math curricula and assessments aligned with the Common Core state standards, successfully improved the teaching and learning as evidenced by the third largest student achievement gain in the District of Hartford, an increase of 23% of students being proficient in the DRA2 from September to May. He contributed to the district's administration evaluation and teacher evaluation committees, gathered and analyzed data, implemented research-based strategies, and used results indicators to inform decision-making for district and school improvement. He provided professional development and supported scientifically research-based strategies and holistic accountability, priority standards, wrapping the standards, common formative assessments, power strategies for effective teaching, data-driven decision-making, and instructional and school-level data teams, and also designed and implemented protocols for learning walks and mini observations to provide administrators a more efficient, effective, and informal observations. He supported administration and teachers in Hartford and underperforming schools and directed summer school for the district in K-7. In Waterbury, Darren was named as an instructional leadership director in 2012 and was one of the 4 ILDs, or instructional leadership directors, and provided leaderships for a network of Waterbury schools with principals, teachers, in 10 elementary schools. In the capacity of Waterbury instructional leadership director, Darren has provided differentiated supports to principals to assist principals with building their instructional leadership skills. He has done this by providing job-embedded professional development, by modeling effective instructional leadership, and by developing and streamlining tools and resources to support principals. Darren has provided large group professional development to administrators on topics critical to Blueprint for Change reforms. Darren has evaluated principals, assistant principals, curriculum supervisors, utilizing the Common Core of Leadership evaluation rubric. Darren has served as lead project manager and/or committee member for the district data team, literacy and mathematics curriculum writing, curriculum writing committee, standard-based report cards committee, professional development and evaluation committee, Bloom Board implementation, which we know about that, culturally responsive education, summer school. There were 19 applications for the chief academic officer. Darren was the unanimous recommendation of the interview panel consisting of myself and 3 other senior education executives from throughout the state. He also was the highest performer on the administered selection process exercise, requiring evaluation of a concept-based curriculum template for K-12 English language arts curriculum. Darren is an outstanding candidate who deserves this position in pursuing our new chief academic officer. He is committed to the education of urban students and will work tirelessly for a cohesive and productive environment with staff, students, family, and the community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Wow.
Thank you, Doctor. Is that all you have? Okay.
Yeah, that was...
Anything further? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Awad?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Harvey?
Yes.
Commissioner McEntee?
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Vanstone?
Yes.
President Stango?
Yes.
All
Motion
right.
carries unanimously.
Good evening, Mayor O'Leary, President Stango, Vice President Harvey, Commissioners, Dr. Ouellette. I want to start off by sincerely thanking the Board of Education. I am humbled and honored with the tremendous amount of trust you have placed in me here tonight. I also want to take this opportunity to thank my mentors, some who are in the audience. My work is built on a foundation of their unselfish counsel and patience, for they saw something in me and always judged me on my actions, work ethic, and skill rather than indiscriminate qualities that do not define my ability as a leader or educator. Dr. Ouellette, I'm especially appreciative at the opportunity to work beside you as a senior member of your cabinet to advance educational reform. The visionary leadership from Dr. Ouellette for the Department of Education reassures me that our team will continue to do what's best for students of Waterbury. I would like to also thank my family, who is here with me, continues to be an incredible journey, and it is through your support and understanding that I am able to pursue my passion. I applied to the Chief Academic Officer position because I'm eager to change the trajectory of children's lives. By serving the community of Waterbury in this role, I will have the opportunity to positively influence over 18,000 students on a yearly basis. That is truly remarkable and an amazing responsibility that I take very seriously. My 90-day entry plan focuses on strengthening and establishing relationships, parental and community outreach, streamlined curricular structures to advance student outcomes, and a targeted approach to improve human capital. With the dedication of our amazing administrators and committed teachers as we work alongside our colleagues, families, community, and the board, we will close the achievement gaps that do exist here. In closing, I believe that every child, regardless of their background, has a fundamental right to receive a high-quality education that not only enables him or her to dream, but also unlocks the tools to pursue those dreams. This belief is the reason why I have missed countless dinners, bath times, and story times with my own children. But it is my life's work to realize this goal of social justice, and I thank you for allowing me to serve Wtby in its pursuit. Thank you.
Introduce your family.
Congratulations.
Mr. Schwartz would like to introduce his little family to us. I want to step forward for a second.
It's a long agenda, so briefly. This is my wife, Christine, so so much respect and so much of what I can do is due to her and her belief in me and what I can do. And so, I owe all the time that I can spend for Wtby and the students of Wtby to her. And this is my oldest, Emily, who's entering kindergarten.
Okay. Hi, Emily.
The thing is, say hi. Emily is entering kindergarten, and I took our kindergarten curriculum, which you'll see later tonight, to my school system and questioned, why aren't they doing this? And so what's good for the students of Wtby is good for all students in Connecticut. We're leading the pack with that. And this is little Adeline, and she's entering preschool next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schwartz. Congratulations, good luck. That concludes our agenda. Entertain a motion. Motion to adjourn. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Mr. President, I'd like to say a few words before we adjourn.
You bet.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just want to take a moment to recognize all the peers that are here, ILDs, other principals, vice principals, central office staff. It is the middle of summer. These candidates who were transferred and promoted tonight have earned their respect so much that they came out to see them while they're all on vacation and congratulate them. So thank you. You're great folks for being here to support your friends and mentors. I also want to take a moment to congratulate you, Superintendent Willett, and I was intently watching this process over the last several months. If we go all the way back to your blueprint for change, as Commissioner McAtee spoke about the other night, a lot of these transfers tonight were and are in support of your vision for a better district. Quite frankly, from the support staff at Wilson to the great opportunities for Career Academy, to have another vice principal now do the community outreach that we all so desperately support and have been hoping for, to all of the new promotions I can't think of a greater group of people. It's obvious to myself and many of us around you that you have really worked diligently to promote your vision for this district. And I congratulate you. I congratulate all the recipients and all the folks who were promoted tonight. You're a great team. You're working for a great boss and a great board, and I support you all. Thank you.
We already have the motion to adjourn and seconded. Now we'll, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. We're going to take about a 1-minute recess before we begin our workshop. Just about a 1 minute. We welcome everyone again. This is a workshop of the Board of Education, a regularly scheduled workshop. We are at Maloney School, and we have an agenda for our workshop this evening. We're going to begin first with a silent prayer, and then after that we'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Silent prayer, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on the agenda of our workshop is the Committee on Building. To request approval of an energy efficiency services letter of agreement with Eversource Energy for the Kennedy High School addition and alterations project, ONG, and Mr. Godon. That would be Bruce from ONG.
That would be Bruce. Good evening. This item is a agreement for a rebate from Eversource for energy efficiencies placed into the Kennedy High School renovations project. It is similar to other rebates received from utilities over the years. As a matter of fact, I know the board put an early direction on the school construction program regarding energy efficiency, and I believe every single one of our school construction projects has received rebate, obviously dependent on the size of the project or its scope, for energy efficient boilers, HVAC systems, lighting, and other matters which are eligible for such rebates. And in every case, our administrative staff have complied with the paperwork requirements of the various utilities involved to obtain the rebates. So this is one of the more recent ones, obviously, for the Kennedy project. I think probably the last one you received an approval was for Wallace.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Godon. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Godon or Bruce at this point? Okay, very well. Thank you. Moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, discussion of the Reed School District expansion. Mr. Godon, Mr. Zuda, Mr. DiAugustino.
Thank you again. As the board's seen by both reports that I've generated to you in the past, as well as contained in the more recent facility study, Reed School continues to be one of the very few schools in the district, other than actually Walsh, who we purposely have kept a lower enrollment rate, which has been underpopulated essentially since it opened a few years ago. Some board members may recall, as we put each of the new pre-K-8 schools online, we essentially conducted mini redistricting, establishing a specific district for each of the new pre-K-8 schools. They were primarily put together by Will and George and Jeff Hunter and other staff, designed to be neighborhood schools are designed to be walking schools, and we generally have certain area generated from the center of the school building, attempting to populate as best staff could predict on how many students would come out of a given district. Never going to be perfect. We're never going to have the exact number of second graders required, exactly the number of fourth graders required, exactly the number of fifth graders required. But the pre-K-8s are different than the other elementaries in the sense that we have not used them for overflow circumstance, and on the rarest of rare occasion for pure overflow, and there's absolutely no place else to go. So other schools have obviously received overflow students to populate whatever seats they had available, and as you probably saw through the district facility study, that all were in fact at what would be described by the consultants as overcapacity. We have watched the Reed circumstance for a couple of years now, thinking it might correct itself. There are anecdotal and other issues which indicated that there was development in the north end in the area of the school, may have generated some additional population. Didn't want to expand the district too great, because then we're in the circumstance of having a district that parents or students live in and can't attend the school because there are no seats. So we've been tracking Reed for some time, seeing what was going to happen for a couple of its first years of operation. It does not, in my opinion, appear to be able to correct itself or would correct itself. We still do not want to use it or other of the pre-K-8s, which are pretty well populated, as overflow schools. So we worked with Will and George and determined that a slight expansion of the Reed district would allow it to better populate its classroom seats as they should be, would have positive effect, ultimate positive effect of reducing population actually from Bucks Hill. A number of the students that are in Reed, that would go to Reed, would be in the current Regan district, but we have Regan students in Bucks Hill, and Bucks Hill in particular is one of our largest and most stressed on enrollment schools. So with that purpose, after we've waited a couple of years, I feel now is time to move forward and tweak the district to better utilize all available seats at Reed. And I will let Will perhaps describe the exercise he went through to identify the particular streets and areas.
Good evening, Commissioners. So pretty much what I did was look at the map and surrounding streets that currently don't feed Reed Elementary School. If you look at the memo that went out to Paul, you can see the map there. I looked at a bunch of different streets and tried to find a couple streets, try to narrow my focus to the closest to the building first. I worked my way from there. Kind of looked at the population that currently attends other schools in the district and pull those kids out of those other schools and put them into Reed and try to see how it would best fit as far as the vacancies that are currently exist in Reed School. So I was able to identify two streets, was Ward and Locust Street, and the population on those two streets alone would pretty much help solidify the numbers at Reed Elementary School. So based on that number, I looked back and Paul asked me to do a quick analysis and see the impact on the other schools, and as Paul stated earlier, it's going to help alleviate some of the pressures at Bucks Hill and better balance Regan School. So, and that's pretty much the logic, is looking at the best streets that would fit the profile and fit the Reed School District without, keep the walking distance, keep the kids close proximity that actually are close to the school, and those are the kids that I want to target.
And the plan would be, obviously, we've had students in schools. I don't want to pull students out of schools in the later grades, especially in particular. So we may provide if you approve this, we may provide the opportunity for parents living in these new streets to attend Reed, should they choose to do so. But if not, but I clearly use this for future registration and enrollment as it occurs in the future. As I said, these are never perfect. These happen to be the number of students living in those streets at this time. We'll move them forward in terms of their grades, second grade to third, third to fourth, as to where they would populate the school and where we would have opportunity and where the seats are. You can see by the summary of on the page of his memo where there are seats. I wouldn't pay much attention to kindergarten at this point in time. These are early registrations, and those populate up pretty well. But the number of the lower elementary grades have numbers of seats, but most importantly, the middle school seats have consistently been down at Reed since the school opened, and it doesn't look like that will fix itself as the lower grades move through the system. So, wanted to seemed something like it was time to move forward now. I've so informed our consultants, they've put this minor adjustment into some of their calculations and clearly saw what we were doing and why we were doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Godone. Any questions for Mr. Godone or the panel? Vice President Harvey?
Thank you. I'm so glad you went through this process. The bad news is, I'm not happy. Why not, I think it's Tudor, the Hill. Why did we not look at Tudor Street? And the reason being is because every year I'm getting calls from parents that say they can look right at Reed School, but they have to go to Kingsbury. So why was that not taken into consideration?
The Tudor's cut off at halfway point, correct?
Yeah, it's a halfway.
So we go up so far. We're trying to keep that half-mile radius. So I was just looking at streets. First, they had to fit one criteria close to the proximity of the district,
okay.
So around the boundaries of the district. The second priority was to try to get the kids that would fit the needs that we currently have. I could pick Tudor, but I probably won't get the population that I need to help fill out these lots. I mean, if I sway to one street, then all my numbers go one way. If I sway to another, I might have more first graders, but I don't need any first graders on Tudor. So, and I was going through some of these streets. I can't remember Tudor specifically, but when I'm going through some of these streets and I'm doing an analysis, I'm like, all right, this street doesn't work just because the kids on that street just don't fit the voids that we have. So I was trying to find the streets that would most fit the voids that we have in the district. And these happen to work out pretty good.
What is it that you were trying to pick? Because I couldn't get to that part because my
If you look on the front sheet.
Yeah, but I can't. Okay. It won't load, and every time I look at it, it just disappears. So. All
right. Let me try to summarize quick.
Okay.
Then, and
Thank you.
I'll put kindergarten aside for the moment because we're in early registration.
So tell me what exactly.
In first grade, we've got 5 seats available at Reed that won't look like they're going to be filled. We only have, 5 seats. In second grade, we only have 1 seat. In third grade, we've got 6 seats available. In fourth grade, we've got 4 seats available. And now is where the trouble occurs. In fifth grade, we've got 14 seats available, and this is 2 classes per grade. In sixth grade, we've got 13 seats available. In seventh grade, we've got 21 seats available.
Okay.
And in 8th grade, likewise. So what Will is saying, he's trying to find students that would fit in those age categories, on streets that would fit those age categories that would fill those seats. For example, if we've only got 1 seat available in second grade, there's no sense expanding to Tudor Street if there are 7 second graders because there's not enough seats for that.
But have we looked at that though, Paul?
That's what Will said.
That's the question.
Correct.
That's exactly
Did we look at Upper Tudor Street? Because I'm thinking this person. Go ahead.
I quickly looked at a bunch of streets. I brought them in, looked at the summary of grades that are on those streets, and I looked at proximity. So Tudor didn't fit that the summary or the proximity. But things change. I mean, we're a transient district, so I mean these numbers today might not be the numbers I need tomorrow. I might run a new report and then everything is different than what I originally had. So
we'll take a relook at that material just to see what's there. But the answer to your question is yes, he went through that exercise.
All right. If we can just look at it, because like I said, every this beginning of the school year, I get calls from the parents that say they can look. I can look at the school, but I have to send my kid to Kingsbury. It's like I hear it every year. So, and I think by now these kids are ready for middle school, I believe. So if we could just say that, we looked at it, didn't fit the profile or whatever, then okay. Then I'll just tell them, Thank you, I appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Not trying to be hard on you, Will, you know that, right? Okay.
I like when you give me a hard time, so.
Everybody goes.
Commissioner Sweeney.
The new area, are they all within walking distance?
Yes.
Okay. Would that Upper Tudor Street area also be walking distance?
I'd have to measure. If it extends past that half mile. I'm not really 100% sure. It goes, we go halfway up. I don't know if that halfway up is a half mile, quarter mile,
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't know, 3/8 of a mile. It's just, I'd have to measure. I'll let her know.
This
in the
will
report.
definitely,
Yeah.
these will not add buses. This
No.
This
No.
student
No,
population
our
will
goal
not
is to
add
stay away from
buses.
buses.
Okay.
True neighborhood school.
To neighborhood school. And Reed's clearly allowed us to do that. The original District Dean, where we've been to date, there's not a bus that goes into that school, other than obviously special ed
Yeah.
bus. But,
One more question. Walsh, where we're trying to keep the population stable, we're pulling 13 students from Walsh?
It's, like I said, it's the numbers. I mean, yeah. And it's hard to,
No, I agree.
yeah, it's so hard
I
to
just
try
want to
to
make sure
figure
that
out
we,
the right, street
yeah,
or,
we took that into account, that, we're going to pull 13 kids out of there.
But
and
like I
we'll
said, that's
most likely backfill 13 kids
that
from
could be
someplace
7 when
else.
school starts, Commissioner. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it was just a starting point to figure out what streets to target.
based on the current numbers and the proximity of the streets to the school and be able to walk, that seems like the best tweak to make now. We might need to do it again and even look at some of the other ones now, although the others have held pretty well. Yeah, there's a little movement around Duggan now, but Carrington's in good shape, and as is Gilmartin.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown.
So is it, can I conclude that if I just do a quick addition here with 6th, 7th, and 8th, you're talking about 50 students who are not going to be going into a middle school?
Correct.
Okay, and is that going to impact, is there a domino effect there, or do we have enough kids now for the middle school, or does that help us with the overcrowding that we had before?
Well, our overall purpose of the K-8s was to reduce the population of middle
Right,
schools that were just
exactly,
too big, and we succeeded in that.
Yeah.
We succeeded, as each of these have now moved forward in time, to reduce middle school population significantly in all three. However, one of the surprises of the facility study to me was the report saying the middle schools are still overcrowded, and even with the significant reduction that's occurred with the pre-K-8s coming online, the report indicates, because our impression is they're big buildings, and they are, that the middle schools are still, have too many students in them. So the answer to your question is going to continue to move in the right direction.
Okay, good, thanks.
Anything further? Yes. Vice President Harvey.
All right, Paul, just as an aside, but key to this, I hope we're going to look at the crosswalks in the neighborhoods that we're referring to. I'm not sure. When we're taking, are we taking from Walsh School and transferring? What are we doing?
Yeah, we're going to provide opportunity of the students in these particular streets to attend Reed if they so choose, but if not, then any new registrations from those streets will be sent to Reed.
Okay.
So yes. And we continue to look at crosswalks.
Yeah, it's very key.
Yeah,
very
especially
key.
in pre-K-8s and walking schools, but across the board where they are.
And crossing guards, et cetera.
Yeah.
I'm actually working with GIS of the city of Waterbury, and I'm giving them our kids, they're going to populate and look at crosswalks.
Okay,
of all
good.
Of 4 or 5 schools. So I'm working with Paul, give me Joe over at Public Works for the city. I can't think of his last name. And so I'm working on something for them now, so.
Good.
As part of our
and there's
part of our
particularly
project, we're working together with them to do exactly what you're describing.
All right, I will get you that information, but there is a complaint that I received from some parents, particularly in that Ward Street area with crosswalks, so I'll get that information and get it to you. Secondly, Paul, how are we doing with the light at the bottom of Tudor? What's the update on that?
I lost track of it, Karen. I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Keeps getting into Department of Transportation, never land, but I'll check it for you.
Good, okay. That's it, thank you.
Anything further? Okay, thank you, people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on now to item number 3 on the agenda. It's request approval to apply for the Connecticut State Department of Education 2015-2016 Family Resource Center grants for Chase, Wilson, and Reed School. And it's aligned with Blueprint for Change, Goal 3, Objective 1 and 2. And we have Louise Allen Brown and company.
Excuse me, Charles, I'm going to have to leave at some time earlier in the meeting, but if there's anything that comes up later on, obviously Carrie or the superintendent could provide information to me. I'll get back to any board members.
Okay, Mr. Godone, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Commissioners, Dr. Roulette, this evening we have the Family Resource Centers grant application renewals before you for your approval. These are grants that have been received at Chase Elementary, Wilson Elementary, and Reed Elementary. Reed, the most recent addition, Chase and Wilson having been established for some years. The state of Connecticut, in their renewal process, has requested your board approval of these applications. They are basically an extension of the services that have been provided in the past, which, as you know, at Family Resource Centers includes 7 essential components. Basically, child care for preschool-age children, before and after school care for school-age children, parent education and home visitation for families with children from birth to 5 years old, networking and outreach to daycare providers, positive youth development activities, adult education and family literacy, and finally, resource and referral to other community providers and services. Our Family Resource Centers have been enormously beneficial to their school communities, and we're just asking for your approval to submit an application to continue their existence at the schools where they presently are. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me please introduce
Yes, good
Jacqueline
idea.
Torres, who is the new FRC coordinator at Chase, and Ernest Racine, who is the FRC coordinator at Reed. Jessica Rijo, who I'm sure you've known from the past, is the FRC coordinator at Wilson. She is out of town, as is Charlotte Shockey, the central FRC coordinator.
All right, thank
So
you.
hopefully we can represent them and answer any questions you might have.
All right, well, we welcome you also. I think we've met before. Yes, very good. Okay, questions for Mrs. Brown or panel? Vice President Harvey?
Thank you. Not question, just comment. You guys are doing a fantastic job. I hear nothing but compliments. I think I'm at Reed a little bit more than Chase, but I like what I see. Continue on, and I just want to thank you for that.
Anything further? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Item number 4 on the agenda, Committee on Finance, request approval to apply for the State Department of Education Support for Pregnant and Parenting Teens Program, Year 3 of the continuation of a grant. It's aligned with Blueprint for Change, Goal 4, Objective 1, and Mr. Gorman is here for that.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is a continuation of a grant we've been managing now for 5 years. So we're into the second full 3-year cycle now with year 6 of this. Basically, the budget that you've seen very closely reflects that of last year's that you approved, and so I'm here to answer any questions that you may have in regard to that.
Yes, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman. I would be interested at some point in a report on how it's going, what are the outcomes, just to find out what's going on.
Absolutely. We just did receive a report from Susan Radway at the CSD about that, and one of the things that is really an astounding number is the young women and young fathers that are in our program in the past year had an 85% graduation rate.
Wow,
so,
that's wonderful.
We're very, very pleased with that. The one thing that I do need to ask you for this evening, because the grant is due tomorrow, is we will need consensus on this. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? All right, so we are good with the consensus there?
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gorman.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 5 on the agenda, request approval of an agreement template for sub-grantee services under the School Readiness and Child Daycare Grant for grant years 2013, 2014, listing of providers' slots. Ms. Taki.
Yes, good evening. What you have in front of you is the vendors that have been approved by the grant, not only through the School Readiness Council and by your board, but also by the Office of Early Childhood to provide school readiness services within the community over the next 2 grant years.
Okay, thank you. My screen just went blank. It's having, I think it's acting up. Am I the only one?
No, Will
No.
can't get mine up.
Right, okay. Any questions for Dr. Taki? Vice President Harvey.
All right, how you doing?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm great. Listen, any new, this is my first time looking at it because I wasn't able to bring it up.
The only thing that's a little different this year is that, I don't know if you're aware, but the Head Start grant that we've had within the city used to be held by the New Opportunities.
That's right.
They did not receive the grant, and a outside vendor did come in, just Community Development Institute out of Colorado. They're a federally sanctioned fixer-type agency that comes in. The grant did go out for recompete this spring, and it was awarded to Team. So what's going to happen is CDI is going to provide those services that have some school readiness spaces attached to those Head Start slots for 2 months, and then Team will come in and they will transition. And I've already talked to the executive director and working closely with them in terms of trying to make that transition as smoothly as we can for our families in Waterbury.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further? Very well. Thank you again, Dr. Taki. Okay, moving on to item number 6. Committee on Finance requests approval of an agreement with Waterbury Youth Service System as required by the Youth Service Bureau grant for truancy prevention services. Ms. Saransky and guests, please introduce yourselves. And
my name is Kathy Crow. I'm the Executive Director of Waterbury Youth Service Systems. Good evening.
Very good. Welcome.
I'm Raymond Demers. I'm the program manager. Raymond Demers, program manager of the truancy program.
Okay, welcome to you too. Very good.
Elaine Skoronsky, Special Services.
Right, we know you, Elaine. All right.
Better or worse.
Go ahead.
We're here today to ask approval for the contract with the Waterbury Youth Service that the City of Waterbury has, in which Waterbury Youth Service provides us with truancy services. We have some data that we can also pass out, which I should have gotten to Carrie. They provide, our attendance counselors and truancy specialists make referrals to Waterbury Youth Service when a student becomes close to truancy, not at truancy. And they provide home service, they go to the home, they provide... Yes, that'd be great. Thank you. They have home services, they have tutoring programs, so they do try to help the student and the family and resolve whatever issue it might be that could be causing the truancy. The contract is with really the City of Waterbury. They also, I don't know if you're familiar, but there is a statute that talks about youth service bureaus. And it talks about that the city of the Youth Service Bureau needs to match their grant. So Waterbury Youth Service did a grant application, which is appended to the contract. And what the statute provides, whatever the Youth Service Bureau of the town gets, that we match it. So that's what the contract sets forth. It sets forth the city's match to the local Youth Service Bureau. The match consists of the $50,500 for our program, $25,000 for administrative support, and a $23,355 value for the use of 2 classrooms for school readiness. So that is what the contract's about. We have procedures that are appended to the contract. We have forms and procedures with the school system and Waterbury Youth. Raymond it provides us with data with respect to the services. We passed you out a summary of the data that came from this past year for your review. And I have nothing else. Thank you.
Anything else up there? No?
No.
Okay.
I just, want to point out that we got 467 referrals last year, so it's a sizable program, and it's increased every year since we've been doing it, so.
All right. Okay, questions? Commissioner Brown.
Good evening. I'm looking, maybe it's here and I'm not seeing it in a quick review, but how many were you able to become non-truant? Is that there? I'm not seeing it, or?
Go ahead. It's your.
And I'm going to share this with the person doing the program, but some of the cases when we get the referral to a different school or moved out of district, so it's not a truancy case in the first place. The first step is we send a letter offering services. Sometimes we hear back, sometimes we don't. You have that broken down here. The next step is the case manager goes out and does a home visit, tries to make contact that way. So if you look at how many return to school that we worked with, it says 63, but I think a more accurate count would be to kind of look at some of those other items as well, because some of them.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Thank you, President, through you. My question would be, how long have you guys been doing this sort of program?
I've been with the agency as the executive director since March, but I believe that the program has been going on since 2011.
Okay. I think for me what would be helpful is to look at data not only from this past year, but also look at back from 2011, because it'll let us know, what we're investing, is it working? While I understand, I'm sorry.
We did submit that data, but it's just not on this page.
Yeah, what I got is just this one, but if I can see from the previous years to see where we're going, are we better off? And if not, how can we, alter those trends? And while this is helpful, I see you guys are doing a lot of work, and I'm sure it's great work, but I do want to look at the trends, whether they're going upwards or downwards, and if it's really beneficial to the district.
I can answer just briefly. The trend is that the rate of truancy has gone way up, and that we've also seen an increase in lower grade truancy. So it's not overall for the city, and I'm sure you know this better than I know this. It's not a good trend, and
understand.
We are throwing our water on the fire.
Gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate
Commissioner, I have a breakdown of the last 4 years, and when I get back to my office, I'll have that. It's unfortunately teeny print. I'll blow it up, separate the years, and send it out to Carrie Swain, and maybe she can get it out to you all so you can get a look at that.
Thank you.
Charles.
Vice President Harvey.
Thank you. On that same pew, we're in the same church, the same pew. I would like to see a schedule set up where you provide us with this information. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, we get something every year at the end of the year, right? Because I remember going to downtown and there was a presentation, but I would hope we would get something a little bit more frequent. I'm not saying on a monthly basis, perhaps on a quarterly basis. I don't know if it's already in place, then fine, but this information is key information, and to have it reviewed on a yearly basis to me is...
I understand. We do submit data on an ongoing basis throughout the year.
Okay, you submit it, but who is it submitted to? And because I haven't seen it.
It's data submitted to me, but it's not totaled up in this fashion. It's rather by separated by what they've done each day for each particular student. So we'd have to work together to get a summary
Right.
that could be submitted, but since they do give data on a regular basis, I wouldn't think it would be hard to provide you with quarterly summaries.
Right, yeah, I would say on a quarterly basis, so we could just get some idea where
That's no
we are,
problem.
and rather than wait until the end of the year.
Understood.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Charles?
Commissioner Tom Van Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. All these categories obviously are concerning, but a few of these are jumping out at me. Refused truancy services, 48 students, 10%. Closed, continue to be truant. I don't know why we close it if they continue to be truant. No contact after home visits, phone calls, or letters, 11%. And then straight up not compliant is another 7%. So once these numbers are established through the agencies here, what are happening to these students? Are they just, they're now a number and we don't go looking to help them?
I think, we make an effort to contact them. Again, we have 1.5 case managers for this program and 467 referrals this year. So we do, reach out by phone. We reach out by, home visits going by, trying to reach the families, leaving notes, leaving information, offering services. Our case managers reach out, several ways, several times, and often the family either refuses services or just doesn't respond. So it's not the number we like, and we would, like to improve those outcomes and then say that, more of our young people do go back to school. But this is the truth. We're constantly looking at the model. I came again in the beginning of March, and we're doing program evaluation of all of our programs, and particularly this one, and looking at evidence-based models around the country for truancy programs so that we can improve these outcomes. One of the things that we're considering is we have 3 JRB, the Juvenile Review Boards. We're considering adding a 4th and dedicating that one to truancy, having that be specifically around truancy. We also have begun conversations with having that JRB at a school because, we have heard from folks that makes an impact, that has more of a kind of clout with families. They respond more if it's held in the school. So we're looking at things, we're looking at a variety of things that we can do to improve those outcomes.
The board would be a good future state, right? But my concern now is, are these cases referred somewhere else? I do see one category, multiple referrals, and
Yes, and
you
we
have moved them to other
Right.
agencies.
And we have 139 cases at the bottom of cases that we're still monitoring, that we're still offering services to, that we're pursuing to see if there's any assistance we can give as the new school year begins. So, I think we do as best a job of chasing them as we can.
And I'm sure you do, and, the numbers, your numbers, the numbers you're dealing with obviously don't add up. But it still concerns me that these categories just seem like we took the data, and then these students are just out there somewhere. And that concerns me.
It concerns us as well.
So what I'm asking is that why don't we also refer them somewhere else? At least maybe someone with a stronger group, like a DCF or whoever the right agency is, will have the right number of employees and people in their office to be able to deal with these numbers.
We do make those referrals. There's where it says multiple referrals, other services, we do make those referrals.
But those comments aren't against the categories I mentioned. That's why I asked the question. So I guess also then to Vice President Harvey's comment, I think we need updates more often. And I would like to see in the future that those categories I mentioned also have some comments saying, we weren't able to assist here, however, we did this. Okay, that would be nice to see, because right now with this, and you explained it much better for me, But just reading the data, it looks like we just have a third of this population is just out there somewhere, and we may not even know where these kids are. So, okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brown, then Commissioner McEntee.
Yeah, interesting. I think as we look at and I agree with Commissioner Felix that I'd like to see the trend analysis. And also, and I'm not sure, and this is probably happening, but I'd like to know what are the collaborations, the true collaborations with the school system. I mean, we have attendance counselors, we've got behavior techs now. I mean, we've got a whole, hopefully, good support system. And I'm wondering, what is the relationship between your program and what the school is doing? So if there was a way, I mean, is the synergy there? Are we collaborating? Are we, how is that? How is that
I know
working?
there's some collaboration. I'm sure, we can work harder at that. I'm going to ask Ray to respond to that because he has more day-to-day knowledge.
Absolutely. We're in contact with the school's attendance counselors for each open case that we have. At least once a week, we try to get attendance updates with them, relay the information back to the youth's parents, make sure they're aware of what's going on with the situation. A lot of the times the parents are unaware that their children aren't in school, obviously. And mostly just the attendance counselors. We also do contact guidance counselors sometimes, just to see what issues they're observing with the children and see if there's anything else that we could do on their end to try to help them out.
I guess I was hoping that each school, because we had made a concerted effort to address chronic absenteeism, which is the same as truancy in my mind. Maybe it's two different things, but I thought that the school had a plan for each student who was identified as chronically absent, and that you would be getting kind of like a higher risk group after the school had done all their work to reach these families. So to me, that would be a more systemic way to do this. So maybe it's something we really have to look at across all the systems. So I'm just surprised that there isn't more in-depth information coming from the schools. And maybe there is, but I think we need to build up that relationship to really make sure that we are doing everything we can to prevent this kind of thing. And I would imagine elementary school, I mean, that's a high number. Do you find that it's easier to get the elementary students back into school, given that they are more under their parental control as little kids?
Absolutely. I think we probably do have a higher rate of elementary school children returning, and a lot of the time it's because it's a lot to do with just educating the parents of the importance of having them there and the consequences, both legal and personal, of the child not going to school. Sometimes with high school kids, 16 years old, they think they have their minds made up, and it's a little bit harder to convince them and tell them another way.
Okay, I think it's really good information, but I guess I'd like to see a more concerted effort around this issue and kind of see if we can't leverage our resources a little bit better, since we do have, to me, we do have staff in our schools that this is their job. So I'm just surprised that there's not more of a linkage with the staff in the schools.
Well, we have a whole attendance procedure for our own people.
Okay.
And that procedure involves using all of our school staff.
Okay.
Prior to it being referred to Wtby Youth Service.
Okay.
Although it could be happening simultaneously as well, depending on the situation. But Wtby Youth Services is used by us as an outside resource for truancy. And they act as the community agency that then can help us get the kids to other community agencies, such as those referral numbers that we were just talking about. But the law does require us to go to the use a community agency of some kind, and Wtby Youth Service has served that purpose.
Absolutely.
And the chronic absence definition is really different from truancy, and you're going to be ending up bringing in a lot more kids into that grouping because chronic absence involves excused absences. Truancy is only unexcused absences, so chronic brings in a lot more kids, and we're working with trying to meld the two the two issues together in such a way that we can attack it in a logical way. It's not easy because, as I said, excused absences go toward chronic absence, whereas
Exactly,
truancy is only unexcused. So
Okay.
they don't really even see the chronic absence kids, really.
Oh, we're going to send you another 500.
One of the things that I will say we're adding is we're hiring a master's level social worker who will work with this program and a couple of others that we have, and will be offering parenting groups for the children and youth that are in our truancy program, as well as some others, and also be kind of assessing and making appropriate referrals into the community for ongoing services.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner McEntee?
Thank you, Mr. President. So there were 87 cases that got referred to one of the various agencies. And then, so is the 48 that refused truancy services, is that counted in the 87 or?
No.
So you can just get referred, and if you don't want it, you don't have to take it?
Nope. That's right. We don't have any
Sticks.
Yeah, I mean, so we offer services and families do not have to accept the services. So the 48 would be contacts that we had with families and they said, no, thank you. Or maybe they didn't say thank you.
Okay, but if they refuse, can't you still contact the FWSN and the DCF and the like, even if they say no, they don't want that?
Well, you know, we have confidentiality issues with student data, and that's one of the problems. You know, you can't just give a student's information out to someone. So that's kind of a limit in terms of whether you can refer. It's kind of a fine line. We want to send them to service. You can tell them about the service, but you can't call them up and say, I have a student, Jane Smith, who date of birth, or what. We can't. We have to keep our student information confidential, as do they, because it's in their contract. So, I mean, I don't know if they could actually do that, honestly, and not breach confidentiality.
Okay. Is there any particular school that has more truancy problems than another one, or is it kind of spread out among the districts? Or
No, I think some are worse than others.
do we have a breakdown, possibly, of how it plays out with the different schools?
I'm sure I could get you something that could give you an idea. I was also thinking a breakdown by grade would be good also,
Yes,
because
yeah.
we could see the weaknesses, which are usually transition years, and kindergarten. Kindergarten is where we're going to focus. Matter of fact, Mr. Schwartz and I discussed getting a letter out to the parents to enforce, you know, how important attendance is to success in school.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further? Very well. Thank you, panel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Zoronsky, you're on for about 3 more.
I know.
Okay. Item number 7, Committee on Finance, request approval of an agreement with the Institute of Professional Practice, which is IPP, to provide services to students per their individual education plans. IDEA grant. Ms. Zoronsky.
This is a contract that we've had with the Institute of Professional Practice for several years, many years actually, since I've been here. So the department's requesting a new contract for the upcoming school year. They handle the preschool program primarily in our district for autism, and their behavioral BCBA also does other work with other students around. So we're requesting that that contract be approved as it represents services to the autism, students with autism and behavior problems.
Okay. Anything on that? Questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Moving on now to item number 8. The Committee on Finance requests approval of an agreement with Rob Davis, doing business as Summit Support Services, to provide clinical coordinator services to students.
This is another contract that's been, it's been in place for quite some time. Mr. Davis works in our schools with behavior and autism as well. His work is more broad than IPP. He goes around to all the different schools and he's in charge of or helps supervise the ABA therapists that we have in our district. He provides professional development, training. The request for the contract is higher than it was last year. We're asking for an extra day from him. The law with regard to seclusion and restraint changed this year. I don't know if you're familiar with the new laws, but the new one on seclusion and restraint is going to require a lot of training for our staff, which Mr. Davis is perfect to do. And that's why the request is, and plus, of course, our numbers keep going up as well. So the request for Mr. Davis's contract is 1 day or $40,000 higher than it was last year.
Anyone? Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yeah, thank you, President Stingel, through you. Quick question. I tend to see this name, and I've seen it probably the past 3 years since I've been on the board. Is this a contract that we particularly do an RFP for, or do we just automatically renew his contract? I'm just curious as to, do we have any other individuals, other vendors, that may provide these services for a cheaper cost to the district?
Well, that's a great question, and I keep checking that because if you know me, you know that I do RFPs as many as I can, and I've been researching this area, and it has grown, and there probably could be another person, that could do it. Of course, special ed's not required to bid out a contract under the ordinance. However, we've done it because we want to save the district money too.
Right.
This particular person's salary, hourly rate has not gone up in the years that I've been presenting his contract to you. So I think in that sense, his salary has been quite, or hourly rate's been quite fair. He's familiar with our students in our district. We're pleased with his service. He also has a whole support training module for restraint, which is really important to us. So I think he's a good match. However, it is something that we could look into and potentially do it. We're not required to, but it certainly could.
No, I appreciate it, and I don't know him from a hole in the wall. It was just more of, I see it to be sort of rewarded every year versus seeing what's out there, what exists. Do we have any competition that's comparable to that type of services? So I thank you for responding. Thank you.
It's a very good question. I did, Google. I was checking a lot of things before all of these contracts to see what are our options.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Vice President Harvey.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that question that was just asked. I know him, and I've heard his name for the past year. So I'm just wondering if it's good to have that relationship, etc., but who does he report to directly?
He reports to Mrs. Owen.
Mrs. who?
Mrs. Owen, the special ed director. Wendy Owen.
Wendy, okay. All right, well, I think we should at least, I know it's not required, but I think it's just good. I think people, I'm not just saying Mr. Brown, but some people get comfortable in their positions and, but I think it might be worthwhile to look and see if anyone else is out there.
Well, we certainly could, right now we have, we're here and now, but potentially for next year we could then put it out.
What is his contract?
Pardon me?
No, I'm talking out loud here.
But we could put it out to bid. I have no problem with that.
Okay. Just so that you know that, there's another reason for concern here.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Just so
Okay.
you know that.
Anything further? Very well. Moving on now to item number 9 on the agenda. Committee on Curriculum. Request approval of an agreement with Children's Community School Incorporated, Acts 4 Ministry Incorporated, and the Waterbury Young Men's Christian Association to provide student pre-vocational and employment training programs. Ms. Soransky.
The contracts involved here are for our students who are in transition. under the federal and state laws, we're required, and plus we'd want to, help our students transition to either work or college or some kind of training after school. So we are required to set up transition services. And these 3 contracts with Acts 4, the Y, and Children's Community are all very similar in that we run programs with our asking to run programs with our students in these places, which allow them to get job skills, social skills, very, very valuable training. And we have, if you look at the contracts, the way it's set up, some students have more time than others. Some students are more independent than others. And so under the scope of service, it kind of sets forth different ways that these agencies are being used. And there are going to be others. There's others coming. Just couldn't get them on the agenda. But there's other community agencies that we're collaborating with and have been wonderful, willing to help us, take our kids and work on wonderful collaboration for our students. So that's what these 3 represent.
Okay, thank you. Anyone with questions on that? Okay, moving on. Item number 10 on the agenda, Committee of the Whole, request approval of a college facility request reservation agreement with Naugatuck Valley Community College for the Transition Learning Center program. Mr. Ronsky again.
This contract is a form contract that you see here. It's not our typical contract. It's a state contract. Naugatuck Valley has also been wonderful with us in offering us a room that we can use, plus allowing our students to get into the college and take courses. So basically, this contract is no cost like the others. I forgot to mention that. Finally, no cost, right, for the contracts, but no cost. And it allows the use of this program, the use of the room, and how, if a student wants to take a course, how that will work. And we've done this, very pleased with the program we have there, and would love to keep it going. I know our students like it too. I've requested it be approved.
Okay. Anything on that? All right. I think we're good, Mr. Ronsky. You're done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Moving on now to item number 11 is the superintendent report. Item A under that is a committee on curriculum. It's a briefing from Smarter Balanced Testing, Alignment Blueprint for Change, Goal 1, Objective 4. We have Dr. Ouellette, Darren Schwartz, and Tara Battistoni.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had, in the spring, decided with the anticipation of the Smarter Balance, I think I must have 5 copies right now. I'm not sure which copy you're using, but thank you, Mr. Schwartz. We had anticipated the release of the Smarter Balance and in the spring, and we know the board is limited with regards to meeting times, but we had placed this on pretty much early in June with the anticipation of the release of that. And you're going to hear tonight, Tara's going to review with you. I think she has done it at curriculum meeting. I know Mrs. Cullinan has reviewed this. With regards to Smarter Balanced Testing, we've done a tremendous amount of work with our principals and with teachers and parents in anticipation of that. But I was glad to see also that our commissioner was right in front of this week with regards to the anticipation of the release. We do, and Tara this evening is going to go through it, just a brief presentation about the Smarter Balance, a little bit of the difference between CMT and CAPT. And we've chose, when I arrived, to move away from the CMT and CAPT and pilot the Smarter Balance assessment because we knew that we wanted to get ahead of things. We also knew that we needed work with regards to the curriculum, and as many of you are aware, and especially those that have been working or following closely in the legislative sessions, as well as with the State Department of Education, that the state did not move as quickly as perhaps they could have with regards to the Smarter Balance assessments, some anchor tasks, and some performance tasks. So and as far as model curricula, you notice that we were especially concerned with the area of math, and that seems to be moving a little bit at a quicker pace. So you're going to hear later this evening with regards to how we're addressing that. We did a real good job with concept-based curriculum, setting the backdrop with that, getting ahead of it. And you're going to hear tonight also that curriculum's always a work in progress. It's not going to be sitting on the shelf. We are always going to be tweaking it for the betterment of our students and for what's best for this district. So with that, again, I'm going to be turning it over to Tara with regards to that, but we know that there's a series of adaptive tests that were taken online with regards to our students the last couple of years. These are more rigorous learning expectations adopted by most states. Again, the Commissioner Wenzel has stated that generally Connecticut does better with regards to our nation's report card, but she's warning and cautioning us to look at the Smarter Balance as compared to looking at the CMT and the CAP. I believe that, and I know she's anticipating significantly lower scores, and Tara will go through that and explain the difference. And she's also cautioning us and with regards to not being too disappointed, but that some of the old testing, the CAP, the CMT, the drill and kill, it certainly did not match the proficiency grade level expectations for our students. So with that, I'm going to turn this right over to Tara, giving the backdrop of that very quickly. I know you've seen this, but I just wanted to refresh your memory before the scores come out. I believe superintendents will have access to it perhaps next week, but I think it's for public, I think it will be embargoed to the end of August, so we knew you'd be meeting only probably at this workshop, so we wanted to get in front of it. And I believe our new Chief Academic Officer, upon the release of that, will be sending you a summary of the scores and what the scores actually mean also as well. So Tara, take it from there.
Okay, the new tests measure a variety of things in math and English language arts. Up here on the screen, we show the 3 areas in math that we call the claims. That's concepts and procedures, problem solving and modeling and data analysis, and communicating reasoning. And these will be displayed on reports to parents and for the students. And for ELA, those claims are reading, writing, listening, and research and inquiry. Obviously, because CMT CAPT are very different, they're advising that we don't compare the results to them. We provided the following information to parents in fall 2013 at open houses. This came directly from the state, and I'm actually going to read this because it's of great importance. These standards are new and they are higher. As a result, it will take time for students to master these new standards. The number of students performing at grade level proficiency may appear to be lower compared to what it has been in years past. Scores will likely drop by 1/3 or more. It will be important to support parents and students in understanding the new assessment results. Without the support from educators, parents and students may perceive their results as a drop in test scores when it should be viewed as baseline results against more rigorous standards. Lower results are not indicative that students are not learning, and a level playing field ensures that all students will face the same challenge. In fact, students will be better prepared to successfully compete in the global workforce upon graduation from high school and/or college because of learning the Common Core. So I think that's a really great preface for what we're going to see, or what we expect to see when these results are released. With the CMT and CAPT, we used to have 5 levels, but with the new Smarter Balance testing, there are 4 levels. So the target areas are level 3 or level 4. You see level 4 means the student exceeds the achievement level. Level 3 is the student meets the achievement level. And then we have levels 2 and 1, which obviously do not meet the criteria. Level 2 is approaching the achievement level, and level 1 is the student does not meet the achievement level. Now, what does that mean when a student meets or does not meet the achievement level? I'm going to go through these next few slides very quickly, but just touch on the main gist of what each of these levels mean. So right now we're looking at the math achievement level descriptors. The ELA ones are very similar, and I'm just going to kind of briefly explain what each of these level means. So level 4 is exceeds the achievement level. It says the student has exceeded the level for mathematics. They're demonstrating mastery or demonstrating advanced progress towards mastery, and they are on track for likely success at the next level. Level 3 is meets the achievement level. They are demonstrating progress toward mastery, and they are on track for likely success at the next level. So levels 3 and 4, those students are on track to succeed at whatever they pursue next, whether it's the next grade or college or career. Level 2 is approaching. The student has nearly met the achievement level, but they require further development toward mastery. So these students will need some support to get on track for success at the next level. And then we have level 1. The student has not yet met the achievement level. These students will require substantial improvement toward mastery. They will need substantial support to get on track for success at the next level. Again, whether it's the next grade level or college or career. And again, the ELA ones say essentially the same thing, so I'm just going to skip through those. Now, students get put into each of these levels based upon their scale score. Now, if you were familiar with the CMT and CAPT, the scale scores range from 100 to 400 at each grade level. Now we're looking at scale scores that are in the 2000s. So we have level 1 does not meet, which is in red, level 2, which is approaching, which is in yellow, and then we have the 2 target areas, level 3 meets in green, and level 4 exceeds in blue. And you can see that the numbers vary by grade and by subject. The next slide are the national field test results. Remember, Wtby and Connecticut participated in the field tests last year. We didn't get any results for students, we didn't get any results for schools or even the state, but we did get results overall. So these are results for the entire country for students who participate in the Smarter Balanced field test. Up at the top, we have English Language Arts by grade, and at the bottom, we have math. I drew your attention to 2 different areas. You can see the arrows at the bottom, the columns that I'm going to touch upon. So the first arrow towards the left is the mean. Now that's the average scale score. And I'm only going to look briefly at the 2 that I circled. So for ELA grade 3, the average scale score was 2401.9. So we can say 2402. I'm drawing your attention to that because I'm going to go back to the prior slide. 2402, if you look that up in the table for ELA grade 3, falls in the approaching level. Remember, those students will require some support to be on track for whatever comes next. And that was grade 3 ELA. Clicking back to the same table here, we have the math, grade 11. The average scale score there was 2568. Again, if I do the same thing and I look over here for math, grade 11, 2568 also falls in level 2 approaching. Those students will need some support to get on track for the next level. Again, not going through everything, but if you looked up every score in that mean score list, they all fall in level 2 approaching. So on average nationwide, students are in the approaching level. They are underneath the target area of meets or exceeds. The furthermost right column, the second arrow that I have there, that's what we used to call our percent at goal range. So now we're calling this percent at or above level 3. Again, that's meets or exceeds. And if you see the numbers here, they're mostly in the 30s and the 40s. Again, this is nationwide. This is not just for Connecticut. Now we're going to compare some of those national overall results to some of the subgroups that we normally look at here in the district and nationwide. So the first couple of bullets are just a summary from the prior slide. So looking at the total national sample, 38 to 44% of students scored a 3 or higher in English Language Arts. 32 to 39% of students scored a 3 or higher in math. Again, that was dependent on the grade that they were in. Now, if we look at some of the subgroups, of course, we have these subgroups in Wtby too. Special education, in the field test, it was 9% of the population. And those students scored between 7 and 16% in ELA, a 3 or higher. Between 8 and 18% scored a 3 or higher in math. So those results are a little bit different than what you see for the overall national sample. Also looking at the English learners, they represented 10% of the population of the field test. And looking at those students in ELA, 4 to 14% of them scored a 3 or higher. And in math, 5 to 17% of them scored a 3 or higher. Then we look at the economically disadvantaged subgroup. That represented 50% of the sample in the national field test. 24% to 33% of students scored a 3 or higher in English language arts, and 19 to 26% of students scored a 3 or higher in math. Now, we had just passed out one additional sheet that was not in the original presentation because we wanted to let you know, okay, those were the national numbers. What does Waterbury's subgroup look like in comparison? So the extra slide that you just got here shows Waterbury district demographics for this current test administration. So not the field test, the one that we just finished. So the high need students in Waterbury, our special ed population, 17% of our sample that just took the test were special ed. And that's compared to 9% in that national field test. Our English learners, our population was 14% compared to the 10% in the national field test. And then economically disadvantaged, our biggest subgroup, we had 80% of our students in that subgroup, whereas the national field test only had 50%. So just looking at this, you can see that our numbers are probably going to look somewhat different even from the national sample because our population is different. Finally, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Schwartz to go through the last 2 slides.
So the last 2 slides highlight some comparisons from some of the assessments that you're more familiar with. As you can see in grade 4, based on the CMT, 65% of our students in Connecticut, not in Waterbury, but in Connecticut, were at goal or above in 2012-13. If you look at the NAEP, which is what I believe Smarter Balanced, the consortium is saying that the new Smarter Balanced test will be much closer to the NAEP assessment scores. The NAEP in Connecticut in 4th grade was 45%. NAEP overall across the nation was 41. Smarter Balanced was 37. So you can see the major difference in test scores. Same thing in reading for 4th grade. You can see all the way down from CMT, NAEP in Connecticut, to NAEP across the nation in Smarter Balanced field test. The next slide, similar results. However, it's displaying 8th grade scores. Again, Smarter Balanced, the lowest amount of proficiency. Again, not indicative of students not learning as much. It's just much more rigorous standards that they're getting assessed on. When the new scores come out, some of the slides that we will put together for you will be not only comparing Waterbury's scores internally, but also we'll try to disaggregate that data for you compared to the nation's data. Any questions?
Okay, questions in this phase of the report. Commissioner Brown.
I just had a question. I know when this whole thing was introduced, there was an issue of learning the actual technology. And will that be taken into consideration? Because I think it's almost setting our kids up for failure, if you will, that they didn't have the expertise in the keyboard, and I just don't know if it's fair to look at these kind of scores outside of the technology gap. Is this being taken into consideration?
I'll just say that Will Zudo and his team did a tremendous amount of work from the technical standpoint, mechanical standpoint, to get us, the bandwidth and with regards to the computers to be able to field test, a couple years ago. With regards to the skills, Commissioner, we are concerned about that as well.
I know, yeah.
Our team, Mr. Schwartz and I have talked about the fact that we perhaps, with a new, a 5th prep period coming on board for elementary, we might need to look at keyboarding skills and how to manipulate through some of the screens for the test. I will tell you that our students do fairly well, to be honest. I think we have more anxiousness than they do, but it's still something that we do have to take into consideration. But I think, every school system does face that as well.
Are they allowed to take this test manually? I mean, handwritten? There's no option for that?
There's one option, but I don't think anybody in our district did it. It's a print on demand. It's available only to students who have that written into their IEP, and it's something that has to be specially approved by the state.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay, anything further? Very well, thank you. We'll move on to item B on the agenda for the superintendent report. Committee on Curriculum, discussion of the revised curricula. Alignment Blueprint for Change, Goal 2, Objective 1, 2, 3, and 4. Dr. Ouellette.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to probably move out of the way. You can see a large team coming upon us. As I talked about before, I really am very proud of Wtby's progress with regards to curriculum revision, getting ahead of it. I think we were ahead of the curve before even the state and other districts. We got on board with the Smarter Balance, Common Core State Standard. And as I prefaced my remarks prior to Tara's presentation, saying that curriculum revisions are always a work in progress. We're always looking to make it better. We're always looking to tweak it. And so the presentation that you're about to see is so what, and so what are we going to do about it? So what are we going to do about the scores, and how are we going to align our curriculum to Smarter Balance and the Common Core? So with that, I'm probably going to send it to my left or to my right. Let me say. Left, Darren.
Sure. Up here with us is Dina Mortensen, K-5 ELA Supervisor, and Steve Strand, 6-12 ELA Supervisor. And I just wanted to highlight, and then I'm going to step back and let Steve and Dina take over, is that, our core beliefs in the academic office are as follows. Our guiding belief is that all students can learn at high levels, and it is our fundamental responsibility as educators to ensure that this occurs. This belief animates the work of the district to strengthen and align our organizational structures, particularly those directly tied to the instructional core, to an integrated and comprehensive system of college and career readiness for all students. Accordingly, our collective goal is to foster a culture for learning by creating and supporting the most effective academic opportunities for each student. I won't read the following bullet points, however, I do want to highlight bullet number 4. Today is specifically on the rigorous, balanced, and coherent standards-based, concept-driven curricula. So without further ado, I'll let Steve and Dina take it away.
Good evening. We have 2 goals tonight in our presentation. As Dr. Ouellette alluded to, we're going to provide an overview of the processes associated with a curriculum management cycle, not only what a curriculum management cycle is, but also what we're doing about it, and certainly what's upcoming in the 2015-16 school year. We also have a second kind of personal agenda with this. We want to inform you, and you're looking at 2 of the probably the most enthusiastic, curriculum-centric people you're ever going to meet. So the invitation is open-ended. Anytime any one of you wants to review curriculum, you know where to find us. Certainly get in touch with us, and we'll be around. It could be a brief meeting, never really is with us, I guess, necessarily, but anytime. And that can be in any configuration. We're hoping for a return invite to this group and in this forum, but certainly in the small group or individual realm as well. So we would appreciate that.
I will vouch that Steve and I have had conversations past 12 a.m. regarding curriculum instruction, so I don't recommend calling him around 9 o'clock because it will go that long.
But we will be up. With that said, so first and foremost, curriculum management cycle. It accounts for simply this. It's quality assurance. It's consistency across grade levels, in between and within. Now think about this as we go through this presentation. A management cycle of any kind, and in this particular case, curriculum, certainly it cannot be, if it's not effectively managed, it certainly cannot be effectively evaluated. So if it can't be effectively evaluated, there's no way it can be effectively improved. So that's the premise we take and the subsystems for which we have built through this process. And we work off essentially two essential questions. And they are aligned to the blueprint for change accordingly, goal number 2. The first one is, how do we structure processes with a systems-based approach? Meaning a system of checks and balances so that everybody not only is speaking the same language, but we continuously work on how we perform, how we conduct our business, and make sure everybody is on the same page accordingly. And 2, how do we support those processes in clear and measurable ways? Opinions are wonderful, but data and results matter. And results matter. So we want to make sure that our processes of curriculum, first and foremost, are directly aligned with a continuous commitment to learn and improve. Our job, Dean and I, we take it certainly very seriously in the notion that we exist to help support teachers so they can help kids. That's why we come to work every day. And so obviously there's a literacy associated with curriculum management. Now, you see the document in front of you. It's not one of those crazy diagrams that hopefully would spin people's heads. But just real quick, I want to point out that on the top, you'll see curriculum management cycle, teaming structures. And we believe in that. It's team. It's not 2 people sitting in a room, or 3 or 4, coming up with curriculum for the district. It's teams of teachers and administrators. This summer alone, I can say in the secondary level, we have upwards to close to 70 teachers working on curriculum. 70. They own it. And when we need to move something or change something, it's based on consensus. So it is a consensus process that we're working. It's based on 2 phases, a writing phase and an implementation phase. If you look at step 1, program evaluation, that's predicated on auditing and setting a criteria for what high-quality curriculum is, leading to research and development. That at times is the fun part. That's setting timetables, schedules, professional learning sequences, and the like. And then implementation into monitoring processes. And as Dr. Willett alluded to at the outset of the presentation, curriculum is never done. It's an iterative process, and we need to be responsive in nature. Folks, the years of a 10-year curriculum cycle, I've been around long enough to see that, a 7-year curriculum cycle, train's left the station. If we need to change something, we have the protocols and processes in place. So if it's Tuesday, we will have it changed by the following Tuesday. That's curriculum, because it affects kids in real time. So, what is the essential criteria on which to base curricular review? We have the Wtby Unit Development Criteria. And again, it's one of those where we'd love to sit down with any one of you or group at any time to go through this in very finite detail. It's originally based on a tri-state model that was applied, a rubric that Connecticut State Department of Education picked up and passed along to districts. We took it, we modified it, we made it better, we made it more user-friendly. And we made it, oh, I'm sorry, you do have a copy. And we made it to work for us in the way we develop curriculum, but keeping to the criteria for which it represents. The rubric has 4 dimensions. Learning targets, key shifts, based on CCS is the Connecticut Core Standards, instructional supports, because any curriculum that doesn't have the supports built into its structure is not, in our opinion, a viable curriculum, and assessment and monitoring progress tools associated with it.
So to Steve's point, the evaluation of the curriculum is essential. At the first stab of the curriculum that was written originally, approximately 2 years ago, we had every single teacher in the district, grades K to 9, use the EQUIP rubric or the Wtby Unit Development Criteria. And as a team, they critically analyzed their curriculums. And as you can see, you start with dimension 1, and our average score was a 1.67 out of 4. we needed a score of 3 or 4 to even move on the evaluation process. And so clearly that was the data that was needed to prod us in the direction of fixing the curriculum and going through that edit and revision. Because again, this was our first shot at it, first take, and we needed the data not only from the teachers, because they're the ones who are delivering this on a daily basis. And so it was through their feedback and through their identification, which kind of spawned the next generation, the next revision of the curriculum. And we'll give you that score of the curriculum that's in front of you later in the presentation.
So, when it came down to it, what needs to be added to increase our score, and in turn, partake in the continuous revision process in order to make sure that our curriculum is up to our criteria and most certainly applied standards to meet the goals we have for students. You'll see, I'm certainly not going to read the list, a couple points. You'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down, congruence to previous grade levels units. Each unit, obviously, should build off previous units. Each year should build off previous years. Each lesson, of course, builds off lessons to get there and so forth. Well, we've taken a very deliberate approach to make sure that it is a true K through 12 unit continuum. So every group, say for instance, 6th grade groups are looking at 9th grade groups and units and so forth, etc. Secondary folks are working with elementary folks, vice versa, and keeping a keen eye on the scaffold for which curriculum represents. So here's the plan. What are we doing about it? And we'll pass it on to Dina.
So one of the things that was needed, according to our QUIP scores, was a program to help students, and particularly around the area of phonics. And so that showed up in your list as the foundational skills. So we really needed to make sure we had something that was strong, that was explicit and systematic, so our kids really learned the basics of reading. They learned how to decode so that they could then put it together and understand what they were reading. Our original units attempted to put this into the body of the unit itself, and we decided that in order for it to be really strong, and according to the research, to make it explicit and systematic, we needed a program to help us out with that. So we've used our Alliance funding to secure the program for grades K through 2, and we're adding it to grade 3 the following year. And so we've pulled all of the phonics and those parts of the foundational skills out of the units so that we have a program that will be in every school and every classroom. Last year we had it in 1st grade. We saw amazing results with the kids who participated in that program in the 1st grades. The teachers loved it, and it was so nice as a supervisor to walk into 20 different buildings and see the kids working on the same types of materials, using the same types of resources. This was a picture of some of our students at Carrington School, and they were building words, and they have the magnetic tiles, and they have everything that's put into a little bag that comes with their notebooks and their composition books for writing. It also incorporates handwriting, this program, which is so strongly linked to reading proficiency as kids get older. So this was a fantastic program that we've adopted, and it's so important that we have it for our kids in K through 3, particularly because I believe it was last year alone, we had about 5,000 of our students transfer in between our schools. And so when those kids go back and forth, and that's just our elementary schools, when those kids go back and forth, if teachers aren't somewhat on the same page, we end up with kids who have gaps in their learning because one teacher might have already taught it or taught it in a different way, and there were too many differences. So we pulled this out of the unit, we added it with foundations, and there's a special block in every teacher's schedule in which to teach this. So we're very excited to have that this year. Talk about our units?
Well, not only, as was noted earlier, are they integrated, and you'll see an interdisciplinary approach associated with this, but there's equal representation and congruence between concepts and standards. And the notion of standards is where we were particularly deficient. Any curricula structure that doesn't have equal access and opportunity from a design perspective between concepts and standards, the criteria for which student expectations are defined, it's not worth the paper it's written on. And we've gone to great lengths in making sure that we've married those two concepts appropriately, not only from a lateral, from a grade level perspective, but through a vertical perspective through the learning continuum. To this end, you'll see on the left, that's actually a real world, a real life, firsthand demonstration of what we're doing with elementary school in incorporating the new Connecticut elementary and secondary social studies frameworks within and into the ELA curriculum, the kindergarten curriculum, for which you have in front of you, and we can certainly go into detail at some point. Actually, Dina and I and a team will be representing Waterbury as we go to the Connecticut Core State Standards, or Common Core State Standards annual fall conference. The Connecticut Council for Social Studies annual conference. We were asked to present to the rest of the state in a session in regards to how we are directly implementing social studies within the framework through the learning continuum, K through 12. And keep this in mind, our presentation isn't only going to be on the content associated with what is going on in Waterbury, but the process in terms of what we are creating so that there's true vertical articulation through our grade levels. We, right now, folks, we represent the state.
All right.
We are the state right now.
We are the world.
Right. Dina, your next verse with We Are the World.
We are the children,
All right.
people.
Same thing
It's been a long time.
Same thing with next generation science standards. And kindergarten has done a great job. If you look at that, I don't mean to speak for the kindergarten stuff, but those are our coaches, our teachers, working actually, and Dina can relate to what they were actually doing in terms of experiments and so forth, but literally incorporating the next generation science criteria into the ELA kindergarten curricula. We don't want to be a STEM, we don't want to have STEM pockets in our system, ladies and gentlemen. We want to be a STEM system. And that's important.
So here you see some of the coaches, and they were participating in learning around the new science standards. So as ELA coaches, we're really trying to write a strong interdisciplinary curriculum, because an elementary school teacher doesn't have time in the day to teach science for 45 minutes and social studies for 45 minutes and reading for an hour and a half. Something always falls short. And unfortunately, it's always writing, social studies, and science that fall. So what we decided to do was to make it totally dependent. So at this point, as our revised units come out, and kindergarten will be coming out next year, right in the fall, we're starting the year with this unit that's in front of you, they're tied together. So you cannot teach ELA without teaching social studies. And the way it's going to be, their marking period is 12 weeks long. So for half the marking period, which we're calling Unit 1, it's going to be ELA with the social studies, the newest standards. They were just released in November. The second part of that marking period will be Unit 1, Module 2, and that's going to be the ELA standards with the next generation science standards. So the entire text set we picked for kids and the picture books for sheer reading are all based on Common Core standards for text complexity and balancing in fiction and nonfiction. There are culturally responsive titles where we can include them, and they also address all of the content associated with either the newest science standards or the newest social studies standards. So we're very excited to have that. To that end, for the science units in kindergarten, in order to teach science and have good experiments in your classroom and to tie in all of the new engineering practices that are associated with NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards, we needed some resources for teachers, right? There are materials involved to build these things and to come up with different problems for them to solve. So we partnered with Carolina, the company that produces the building blocks of science, and they produce little kits. And so this was one of the Carolina representatives. She came in. She trained the whole team of coaches on the materials and the engineering design, all tied in with ELA. You also see right here, he's sneaking in the picture, my little laser's not reaching, to the right is John Reed. He's our science supervisor. So he worked in collaboration with the ELA department to create these units, and then we purchased a resource to help support the teaching of it in the classroom. So all of our kindergarten teachers, it's one kit for 2 teachers because there's enough material for both classrooms, are all going to have those kits come the fall to be able to teach these units. And they're so cool that we have, the kids are going to be building things and solving problems, and they have to actually engineer things to solve those problems. So they're going to be little scientists for sure.
So we have common goals, and undoubtedly we all want the best for students, and that's essentially represented in the larger arrows. The arrows within are the sub-arrows, the subsystems which represent how we conduct business. Slowly but surely we're moving in a direction where the subsystems are starting to align. We're speaking across disciplines, we're speaking across grade levels and so forth, and that's what really counts. There's 2 essential ingredients that need to happen for student achievement to improve. And the first one, make no bones about it, and we certainly don't, it still comes down to point blank the quality of instruction that students receive, period. So it's our job to help make sure that the second part, which is so important, the subsystems align so that teachers have the resources, both in their development of their own professional capacity is built, and also the tools in literal form in terms of the resources they use in the classrooms. So that's our goal, undoubtedly, with this as we move forward. If you see you want to...
Yeah, I mean, so everything Steve is talking about is all built on collaboration, right? So for us to have all these systems and to be aligned, we need to have great communication with each other. We need to communicate. In one of the previous slides, you saw John Reed, our science supervisor, working with the ELA coaches to integrate science. Here you see Steve, he's in the background there, sort of hunched over the computer, very, very busy at the moment.
Which one's me?
you're the guy in the back with the long black hair. So there's Steve, and those are his secondary coaches and my elementary literacy coaches. And they're all working together, writing the rubric that's actually in front of you in your packet for that kindergarten curriculum. So when we're talking about vertical articulation, it's awesome that our secondary coaches are there to tell us what we need, and we're there to show them what we need to do from kindergarten, starting at the ground level, working all the way up. And together we created that rubric.
So, unit development. What we started with is consistent templates. K through 12. They're the same. They're the same through all disciplines. There might be a tweak here or there based on a content variance, but ultimately our unit templates, our common formative assessment templates, our performance assessments, and our rubrics are structured all the way through. The kindergarten rubric looks like the 9th grade high school rubric. And it's scored in similar contexts, and most importantly, that's what the kids see. There's going to be continuity from grade level to grade level, from school to school, through the learning continuum. And they're all aligned to Smarter Balance claims and assessments, and what Tara just noted in the previous presentation, we don't skimp on where those direct associations are. As you'll see, here's a prime example. Here's a template. The arrow on the left, you'll see ELA SBAC claims, Connecticut Core Standards. Claim 1, 2, 3, and 4 is on the left. We are going to make sure that it's embedded explicitly in our curricular structure and aligned to focus standards and content standards accordingly. And some new additions, we're making sure that students are receiving the core stimuli, the resources from grade level to grade level. So if it's good for kids at Westside, it's going to be good for kids at Wallace. There's no difference in terms of the core elements of the curricular structure. Vocabulary broken out accordingly and through genre and the like. So, and we go through an awful lot of time in a systematic way with text complexity, context, and making sure that kids aren't only reading stuff that's engaging, but it's appropriate and at an instructional level. As far as we're concerned, if kids are reading, that's good.
So the content supervisors are clearly gelling, central office, It's a pleasure to work with them so closely. And as we stated before, a few years ago when we first created the curriculum and it was scored by the teachers who were implementing it, aligned to the equip rubric, the average score was 1.67. As you saw, Dina and her team, in conjunction with the supervisors, revised the curriculum according to the feedback they received. And the teachers, again, scored the new curriculum, this kindergarten curriculum, which Dina and her coaches rolled out to all the kindergarten teachers across the district in the spring, and to all the administrators at the elementary level in the spring. And the average score went from a 1.67 in the previous edition of the curriculum to an average score of a 4. In fact, I believe there were some schools where rounds of applause were no, literally.
There were.
People were truly excited. And then, of course, grades 1 through 5 said, "Where's mine?" No, right?
It
Right.
was exactly what
Correct?
we said.
So, right. And so they received an average score of 4 on Dimension 1. As this new curriculum is being delivered in the fall, we are going to see how the scores play out for Dimensions 2, 3, and 4, as presented earlier. But don't forget the first edition of the curriculum, we didn't have the rubric. The rubric was not adopted by the state yet. So we were building a curriculum without knowing what a solid curriculum would necessarily look like, aligned to the claims, aligned to the standards. So that's part of why, but it's always easier to know what is a perfect score. What do we need to put into a curriculum to make that a 4? And so with this new revision, having the equip rubric to guide our work with the teacher feedback was truly impressive, and you both have done a phenomenal job.
So, next steps. Remember that old diagram? Well, the reality is that we've learned a lot over the last 12 months in this process, but there's a lot of work that we have to do ahead of us. Now, I said this from the beginning when we started. It will take us longer to build one unit because of the learning process than it takes us to build the next probably 4 or 5 collectively. And that's natural with any new learning curve. This is our job. This is why we come to work every day, in order to go through with that iterative, cyclical curriculum management process. There's some that are at step 1, some that are at step 1 on the left, I should say, and some that are at step 1 on the right. All the while, we'll be continuously reviewing and modifying and coming to conclusions based on real-time feedback from our teachers and our students to make sure that we have the most appropriate, engaging curriculum and that's student-centric and user-friendly, and making sure that students are meeting the criteria truly to meet that college and career readiness expectation. So next steps. This summer, we're continuing with a unit research and development across the board. We have kindergarten, as Dina noted, is done. It's published, it's ready to go. Grades 6 through 9 are in the process of unit research. We will have grades 6 through 9 ELA published before the start of the school year. In September, it's part of the initial orientation of implementation for marking period 1. Grades K, 6, 7, 8, and 9 will start going through the process of analyzing it as they're teaching it and coming up with real-time solutions for any challenges that arise. September to 15th to August 16th, we're going to be the entire school year. We're going to be doing unit research and development, marking period 1 for grades 1 through 5 and 10 through 12. Research and development for marking period 2, grades K, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we're going to build off our marking period 1 successes and what we learned and be able to build accordingly in real time. We'll monitor grades K and 6 through 9 of marking period 1, as I noted, and promote a program evaluation and revision for those as we're teaching it so that we make sure that, again, it's not a year or multi-year cycle of revision process. We're going to make those changes right there, right then. Again, it's this congruence between what's written, what's implemented, and how we assess and monitor. The biggest gap between what happens in this process goes from the written word to the actual implemented in the classroom curricula. So our job is, again, through our coaching cycles, to relentlessly, every day, help teachers in their classrooms in any way we can, again, through our coaching, modeling, and their feedback. That's our philosophy, in a nutshell. Old Grant, unfortunately, just passed away. Just moved, actually, Grant Wiggins, he's a big name in our field. He actually moved to Hartford in the last months of his life. And one of the grandfathers of our field in curricular research, and part of his theory is what we're incorporating.
All right. Very well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions for that panel, board? Commissioner Brown, then Vice President Harvey.
Thank you so much. This is unbelievable and impressive work. I remember when we had our curriculum committee a year ago, and specifically we asked the team to talk about science and integrating science, and especially Commissioner Van Stone was really adamant about that. And to see the accomplishments and the depth of work that's done is really amazing. So thank you very much. I just had a quick question. Health curriculum, is that integrated in ELA, in at all, the health issues of, hygiene, whatever, the health curriculum?
Yes, absolutely. And there's one thing that we didn't point out, because that will come in the next step when we meet together and so forth. We have a component directly embedded within our curricular structure, academic behaviors. All right? So here's the thing. How do you make things real to kids? Well, it needs to be measurable. When we walk into classrooms, there certainly should be an expectation based on, and not a nebulous expectation, but a measurable, clearly articulated expectation that delineates participation, academic endeavor, contribution, and the like. The point being that we expect kids, and throughout this process, to not only adhere to expectations which are defined by academic prowess, but also the expectations we have them from a social-emotional perspective, how they interact with each other, how they self-regulate accordingly. The number one factor in any kind of learning is self-awareness. So that means not only that they know the expectations, but they know how to get better at what they do. And so to respond, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Also, the state just, it's still in draft form. They did post it about a month ago. They have released the K through 3 social, emotional, and intellectual standards. And when they release them, they already have them connected to the ELA standards, the physical education standards, the science standards, and the new social studies frameworks. So those are all going to be embedded within our upcoming units as we go. And this year is our start in combining things in an interdisciplinary way. I believe this is the first type of curricula we've had here where it's been so deliberate like this. And as I'm sitting in the back with Mr. Gorman, I think he's still there.
That's what made me think
There
of
he is.
health.
We started to talk about it. He says, and what about phys ed in here? I said, absolutely. And his phys ed shows up everywhere in those social emotional standards that the state just released. So it's going to embed nicely. And we've also had conversations with Ms. Frennis too. Because as we're finishing these units and she's revising hers, we're all going to be at the same table to look cross-curricular across the elementary classrooms because it is the same teacher. And when we're integrating the science pieces, there's a ton of math, as you know, that falls in with that, not just the ELA. So we're going to hit it from both angles as we continue to create our units. Great question. Thank you.
And I think it's really important to know that the first shot at it with such a low score, right? The NGSS wasn't even here yet, and the C3 framework for social studies wasn't even here yet. Dina went on and saying, "All right, we've got it all. We're gonna start putting it in," and then the social, emotional, instructional standards come out after the process started for her in time for Steve. And so, That's why it has to be able to react to the standards that are being passed. It has to be living, and this is the work, and clearly this is well thought out, and I'm really excited. And you can tell why I brought this to my town that I live in, and I said, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and they didn't have much answers for that, unfortunately.
Thank you very much.
Vice President Harvey.
Thank you. Dr. Willett, what is the direct reference to the blueprint for change for this?
Goal 2.
What is it, Dr. Willett? Goal 2? Goal 2, thank you. Thank you.
I think, Commissioner Harvey, too, we have noted that. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Commissioner Tom Van Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. A lot of information, Big pot of coffee, and I will stop down one night.
You've been promising me.
I know. Got the big pot of coffee?
We actually, yes, we have a nice Keurig. You have a sample
Okay.
from flavored to non-flavored to extra bold.
I only drink one flavor. Real. Yeah, this is great, and I was glad to see the science. I noticed him in the picture before you mentioned it. That's good that we're integrating it all. I know I kind of stress sometimes math and science, but I do get it that we have to integrate all of this. So I have to go through all this because it's a lot to go through tonight. I'm glad we started here. Couple things you mentioned, grades 1 through 5 are saying, "Where's ours?"
It was on
That's the next step.
That was on the
I
slide.
saw it on the next step, but
So it's
how-
this year being written. It's being written this year to be implemented the following year.
Have you had teachers step up already to help out?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We are
They
taking-
receive a stipend though for helping, right? Or is this?
Yeah, so if we do summer work, if we do after-school work, there are stipends involved. But then they also have time where they collaborate at grade levels and teams throughout the course of their day. So they have the document with them. And what's different this time going around with the curriculum is the sort of the advent here of Google Docs. So we have our curriculum, and for people working on it, have access to those links. And so we're able to make revisions in real time across buildings, across the district, wherever we are. And we could see each other's comments, we could see each other's questions, we could see the changes and the revisions we've made, all in real time. It's been such an amazing tool to help us to do this more efficiently. And that's also allowing us to involve so many more teachers and their voice when they're in these meetings in school without having to pull them out and without having to spend additional funding to hear what they have to say. So that's what's going to be part of the cycle this year, through the schools. In addition to the meetings that I'll have with the ELA coaches, the literacy facilitators.
Can I just also make a comment? I think there's, and sometimes we get pushback from administrators, and we say, why is my coach leaving, every other Friday? But if you look at the curriculum in front of you, that Unit 1, and you see the tremendous amount of work that it takes just to put it together and align it, and all the background in the teaching and the professional development that goes into understanding all of the standards and how this works. Once they saw that, once the administrator saw that at the spring network meeting, then they got it. They understood the amount of work that went into this. And so part of our professional development in August is coming back to this curriculum with the administrators and ensuring that they understand what the expectation is for monitoring the implementation.
If I could too, Commissioner, one point that I do want to stress with this team, and you can see the enthusiasm that is generated from tonight's presentation. Try living with them at central office. It's incredible. So my point is, though, that as we move forward, I do truly want the curriculum committee and this Board of Education to adopt this curriculum. We are going to put our thumbprint on this, and we are going to stamp it Waterbury Public Schools, so that if we do put it online, that Waterbury owns it, and that we're just not going to be handing this tremendous amount of human resources and fiscal resources attached to this. And we're not just going to be handing this out. we'll be doing some units, a taste of it, but I know the State Department's already be asking for Waterbury's curriculum, and we're not going to hand it over. So we are going to put the copyright stamp on our documents. Thanks.
Well, it certainly must be intellectual property. I'm sure we can make that claim already. But going forward, the enthusiasm you're seeing from the teachers, stipend aside, do you feel it's going to stay? Are they really that into it right now?
Yes. This is, this is, and I say this with, you could, for whatever it's worth, this is the best work I've ever done in my career. And it's certainly, the teachers, we have shifts right now with teachers stipend aside and so forth. As Dina alluded to, when the meeting ends, that at times just becomes the beginning. With Google Docs, I can go on at any time during the night. I've been on, I was speaking with Darren the other night at about 1 o'clock in the morning and so forth, and I was literally looking at, because you can see icons when other people are responding, if you're familiar with Google Docs, and I'm seeing a plethora and a fury of action going on. 1 o'clock. And we have meeting groups right now going from 8 in the morning to 8 p.m. at night. Wow. In different phases and different blocks and so forth. Folks are enthusiastic. Again, all of us want to go to work, and we want to know our role, responsibility, and we want resources. And the number one resources that we can provide for teachers is our investment in human capital and building their professional capacity, as well as giving them the resource of the what in the form of curriculum. They're enthused. And again, we'd love to be able to sit down and show you in very specific terms why they're so enthused. It's very student-centered.
And I think also to that end, specifically in elementary, by combining the content area and making it almost non-negotiable. You can't teach ELA now without having taught the science or the social studies. The books are all based on those topics and content and standards. It engages the kids. And so that's exciting. So teachers are teaching lessons, or will be teaching lessons that are far more engaging for students and interactive. Where kids are going to be building things. And with the phonics program, they have all those manipulatives to build words, and it's a lot more hands-on. And I can say firsthand, when I went into the first grade classrooms with that foundations program we built, I knelt down next to a little kid, and I said, "Oh, what word are you building?" And it was the word can, and he read it to me, and the teacher said, "Oh my God, I can't believe, you just talked to, so-and-so." I said, "Why?" I'm like, "He's doing a great job." She said, "Well, he just came back from a suspension, and he had gotten in trouble with a few things." And I said, "I would never know that this child had any type of a disciplinary issue whatsoever. He was seated, he was fully engaged, he was working on everything he needed to, and was able to recite back to me everything he was doing." And I think sometimes we look at our discipline and we try to do everything we can with positive behavior supports, which we do, but another piece of that puzzle is student engagement. And when lessons are fun and they're interactive and they're exciting, you have kids that want to come to school. It addresses chronic absenteeism. You have kids that want to behave and listen. I am telling you, when I walk into those classrooms, those kids are not misbehaving. They're engaged. And I cannot wait. I will be going around with my iPad, and I will make sure that there are permission slips signed. I want to see it. I want to record it. I want to bring back to you a video of the kids building the little slides with the Connects as part of an engineering design in the first 12 weeks of kindergarten. That's going to be so cool to see.
Let's invite those that are willing to come with us on a walk.
That would be fantastic.
So it's not just iPad. You can see it for real time yourself. I do recommend that.
One question, Commissioner Brown, you asked before, it's about the modality associated with the typing and so forth and so on. I mean, we haven't even discussed the whole concept of digital literacy. Yeah. That's going to be profoundly embedded within the construct of what we develop.
That's good.
What we need is, again, the infrastructure to catch up with the brains. We have to do some things and make sure that it's associated to disbursement of funding and the like. All of this is congruent with what curriculum, I'm a biased person, but curriculum's the center of our universe here because it's student-centric and everything is associated with that because, again, it's still always about the quality of instruction. Yep. And so our kids are going to be doing things for which, we need to catch them up in some areas of digital literacy, and in other ways, we're going to be leading the charge. It's exciting stuff. It's exciting to be part of Wtby right now.
Mr. President, I have one last question. As this model matures, is our school day, our school calendar, is it going to be long enough to support this type of education?
I think, negotiations are happening. We're adding a day in the upcoming year. My opinion is I come from my former district, the day was approximately 45 minutes longer, and it provided that opportunity to really go hands-on in science, especially as you get into the older grades. And third, fourth, and fifth becomes the informational text. Is much more advanced, and the hands-on science are not as easy as some of the things we're putting together in kindergarten. They take time, set up, and so, I would love to see an extended.
But it sounds like the answer to my question is no.
At this time, we're making it work for what we have, and actually, with some real hard looks at scheduling, I worked with Jan, and Prentice, and Dina, and if looking at the schedule, we did find time, as we talked to you before about math intervention block, that also that happens 2 to 3 times a week, correlated with a science experiment block for the other 2 or 3 days a week. And, that's what we're making work, because during the, just going to kindergarten, and what everybody will have eventually is, you have that informational part of the text being taught during the literacy time. And, we can use that extra, 30-minute block when it's not for math intervention for that hands-on science experiments. We can do it for right now, and we will get it done. Just met with John Reed today, and we talked at length about this, about how is it going to all integrate, especially for those upper grades. And so, that's our job moving forward. If we get the longer day, it gives us some breathing room to get it done. If we don't have the longer day and we can't afford the longer day for all of our teachers, then, we will make it work. We'll find a way to make it happen. We did do some of that scheduling this year, and it will work for us for right now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Commissioner Sweeney?
I want to thank you both for leading and for your district team for creating the curriculums that the state promised us some 4 or 5 years ago that we have never seen, that I gave up on a long time ago. So thank you for all that hard work and for being a leader and making this district a leader in the creation of that curriculum. Do we, at this point, have from the state at least all of the standards, or are we still waiting on more of the standards?
We have all the standards tied to literacy and math. Mm-hmm. But keep in mind, again, that literacy just doesn't relate to ELA, English Language Arts. Now, what the state is doing, they adopted the next generation of social studies standards. We've incorporated those, and we were reviewing those. The person who wrote the social studies standards is an active member of Wtby's Social Studies Council.
Wow.
So, and that was at his request. Former teacher and lead consultant. The next generation science standards is still in a little bit of flux, in that the state is, and flux is all relative. So, but what we're doing is taking the high leverage aspect of the next generation standards, those non-negotiable elements, and embedding them within our construct.
Good for you. Don't wait for them.
No, we won't.
Well done.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, we thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm looking at a new team here. I know that we worked with Darren before, and certainly with Dina and Mr. Strand. I'm glad that you're taking more of a role here. We're welcome to our board meetings. I'm looking forward to more of this kind of stuff, as I think the board eats it up. And I think that you kids are just having too much fun here. You got to be careful. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, wrapping it up. Item number 12 on the agenda, Committee on curriculum, request permission be granted to Dr. Shanahan of Wtby and 9 chaperones to take 25 students to West Springfield to visit the Big E. Item 13, Committee of the Whole, updated 2015 Board of Education meeting schedule. I think it's on your computer. Those are preordained dates, but that lists the updated places that we're going to hold our workshops and perhaps the regular meetings that you know are at WAMS. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. It's pretty standard stuff. It's just updated. Item number 4, Committee on School Facilities and Grounds, use of school facilities by school organizations and/or departments. And item 15, we received an update this afternoon, and it should be in the backup also. School Committee on School Facilities and Grounds, use of school facilities by outside organizations and/or waiver request. And then we're up to item 16, is the superintendent's notification. Does anyone have any questions on that? Seeing none, we're going to complete now our agenda. We will not need executive session, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.